Let's go to space.
Space.
It's the final frontier, I hear some people say.
Whoa, what?
I know, very surprising.
Venture roads take me home to the space I belong.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. That's how the song goes.
Yeah, of course.
I have to do a crossover now.
Yep. Ugh. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Allen, Ladium.
Hello.
This is episode 356. We're going to talk about that Starfield.
We're gonna fuse through the floor
Mm-hmm.
Bethesda style.
Exactly. Todd Howard is here. He's got a gun pointed to my head, and he said, "You better say nice things about this game."
Yeah, that sounds about right. I've seen the Todd bot.
I'm
I know
gonna
what
do
he's
it,
like.
Todd. Don't put it away. uh,
We'll see how
yeah.
many times I can say Bethesda as a verb in this.
Bethesdaing.
Bethesda'd.
But yeah, this is the new Bethesda game. It's in space,
Space.
and it plays a lot like those other games.
Like the Fallouts and the Elder Scrolls.
Correctamundo.
You mean it's a Bethesda game? It
That-
plays like a Bethesda game?
It's very surprising. You're right.
Wow.
But yeah, this is their first Microsoft exclusive ever since getting bought out by Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Came out on September the 6th of this year for the PC and Xbox Series X and S. This game was announced in 2018, if you remember.
No. I barely
5
remember
years
anything.
ago, where they announced this and that they were making Elder Scrolls 6.
I do remember that.
But yeah, a long, long time ago. In
In a
grand
galaxy
scope.
far, far away.
Nope. No. Mm-mm. Space. Ugh.
Starfield.
Yes, that's the name of
Instead
the
of
game.
not a Star War
Or Trek.
or Trek.
It's just a field.
Do you realize we made both Star Wars and Star Trek jokes like within 5 minutes of each other?
That's what we're here to do.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about the development of this video game.
Let's do it.
Hey, do you know this is the first new IP by Bethesda in over 25 years?
Oh.
It's a long time.
I didn't realize it'd been that long.
It's also been described by director Todd Howard as Skyrim in space.
It's a Bethesda game in space. That makes sense. Yep.
The studio had been delving into space-themed games as early as 1994, according to Howard. They had acquired the rights to make a game based on the Traveler role-playing system, but shortly lost them. Their Delta 5 game in 1994 had been part of this Traveler license, but had not been fully realized.
Where do you think they lost him? Did they put it under Todd Howard's bed and he just couldn't find it anymore?
Yeah, that's it.
Makes sense.
The 10th Planet was a canceled space combat game from which the atmosphere of Starfield was derived. Howard stated that they had rights to Star Trek in the 2000s, and he pitched an idea for a role-playing game in that setting, but this failed to be approved. While Bethesda had wanted to do a science fiction game for some time and had strong ideas for its gameplay style, it took a while to cement the ideas behind Starfield that would distinguish it from other science fiction games already released. They came onto a theme which led artist István Pelli dubbed NASA Punk, that although set in humanity's future, used technology that can be traced to origins in various National Aeronautics and Space Administration space missions. That's NASA.
Why didn't they just say NASA?
I don't know. They had to spell it out for us, I guess. Bethesda's team began writing a fictional narrative of events by decade of the approximate 300 years from development to the game's present in order to ask, and now man is living amongst the stars. What does that mean? According to Howard.
Okay.
Starfield's concept had been in the studio's planned development plans for some time prior to the trademarking of the name in 2013. Of other potential names for the game, Howard said, there were no other names. It had to be Starfield. He said active development of the game had been ongoing since the release of Fallout 4 in November of 2015. By mid-2018, the game was in production and had already been in development for some time. It was in a playable state. and is the first game that they have made using Creation Engine 2.
Bum, bum, bum.
So there's that. This has some stuff about like the various versions of the game, but yeah, that's the thing. They put it out on these platforms. That's all you got to know. On the Metacritic, it has an 86 out of 100 on the PC version, an 84 out of 100 on the Xbox Series X and S version, and an 85% on OpenCritic.
Oh, I remember social media was exploding about all these. You know, as it does.
Mm-hmm. And then looking at sales, Starfield reached over 230,000 concurrent players in the first 2 hours of early access on Steam. On September 6, 2023, Phil Spencer announced that Starfield has become Xbox's most played next-gen game ever with 1 million concurrent players. It also became Xbox and Bethesda's most wishlisted Steam game in its history. On September the 7th, Bethesda announced that Starfield had over 6 million players, making it Bethesda's biggest launch, and then it reached 10 million players by September 19th. Turns out a lot of people wanted to play a new Bethesda game, which is not surprising in the slightest.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the
Uh-huh.
Bethesda games are popular.
It is true. They are popular. People really like these games.
No, that makes sense. I mean, like I really liked, well, I played Fallout 3 and I really liked Oblivion and Skyrim.
Uh-huh.
So,
It turns out if you want another one of those kinds of games, this is essentially it.
but in space.
But in space, yeah, that's the key difference. It definitely
I do like space.
Yeah, it definitely plays a lot. I think obviously more like Fallout than an Elder Scrolls game because there's like guns and stuff in it. So, and it's more akin to like the present, even though it's in the near future and stuff like that. So you're not just running around with a sword and magic and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it is essentially it's a Bethesda game. You know, if you've played one of these before, you know what you're getting into when you play this game, or if you want to play this game. Simple as that. I played this game on the Xbox, but I had to play it via the cloud service because it is not available on the Xbox One.
Rip.
But you can play it, via Game Pass Cloud. And that was an interesting experience, I'll say.
Uh-oh.
For the most part, it worked fine. Like, I'll say that it was, like, relatively okay. It was very weird that, I mean, obviously because it's a big game, this was probably a reason why, but it is very weird to click on a game and then be like, all right, you got to wait 10 minutes in this queue for you to play this game.
Oh.
But again, I'm assuming that's because a lot of people were using the cloud service to play this game, so like
Right.
their servers were getting hammered more than usual. But it was just one of those weird things. And then there was obviously, of course, like parts where like the connection got spotty, the game would start to act real funky. Where like it's like you would get like latency and lag introduced into the game when you're just like running around. So like that wasn't great, but again, that's just a byproduct of playing a game on the cloud. If your connection gets a little funky, the game's gonna get a little funky. So that's just gonna happen.
Right.
It doesn't give you really. I don't think it gives you many options though. If you're playing the cloud version, it's kind of just like this is the version we're giving you, and that's it. You're gonna play this how we want you to play it. So if you wanted to like have like performance mode or resolution mode or like change any type of settings that way, like this is not the version to play.
Okay.
You're better off playing a version that you can download to your console or your PC or something like that. But if you're a person like me who can't do that, like this is what you got, and like what you get is fine. It's like it's no real big deal, but if that's a stickler for you, then that's something to keep in mind for sure. Certainly, I would say this was a less buggy Bethesda game than most of its other predecessors at launch. That does not mean that there are instances of it being a Bethesda game. It certainly seemed like, the first 3 quarters of this game, they kind of like, they really tightened things down. But then like once you start getting towards the end of the game, that's when things start to get real funky.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that was just like a byproduct of them trying to like front load it and make it look good in the beginning to make it less of the look at all these weird things that are happening type deal. But yeah, you get the Bethesda stuff. You get the Bethesda experience if you are wanting that at times.
Oh man.
It's just not going to be as prevalent or persistent maybe as those other games.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly do love the Bethesda experience of, well, now I'm just floating for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've sunk halfway into the floor. Cool. Or this character is just somewhat not here. Love that experience.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm genuinely like saying that. Like it's bad, it shouldn't happen, but it's hilarious. So like it's just what I expect at this point.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, how is this as a video game? You might be asking.
Yes, I am asking.
I hear Al's asking, how is this as a video game?
I am asking.
It's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, like I'm not a person who like immerses themselves and gets like incredibly deep into these Bethesda stories and everything. Like I play through them once and I have a decent time and I'm like, all right, cool. And then I'm good.
Yeah, it's kind of how I am.
Like I know people who have gone back and played, Skyrim multiple times and all those games and all that sort of stuff. I played Skyrim once and I was good.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a fan of Fallout 4, so that's it's at least better than that. But like if it's that experience that you're gonna get. Like if you want to dive into a long or like just into a universe and immerse yourself into this kind of story and everything, like this game's going to give you all that stuff to do so if you want to really just fully get deep into all that. But if you're also someone like me who like plays through these games once and everything, like you're gonna get an okay experience out of it. Like it's not gonna be like something that I think blows you away per se, but at the end of the day you'll come away from it and be like, yeah, this was fine. I don't feel like I had a bad time playing this. Like it's okay. I will say, I think the game, there was those quotes that came out right before the game came out where being like, yeah, the game doesn't really start getting good until the end of the game. And they're kind of right.
Oh, no.
Like, to be fair, like I think they should have maybe said it doesn't get more interesting until the end of the game because that's where like some of like the more intriguing story bits come from.
Mm-hmm.
And especially some of like the story missions themselves. So there is a caveat with that, obviously. So if like that's a problem that you have, like maybe that's something to keep in mind. And then there's also the prospect that like if you really want to get all of the story in this game, you have to play through it multiple times.
Oh.
Because of the way they set things up in this story, you need to go into New Game Plus and do things again to see how the story will change and all that sort of stuff, which I did not do. I booted up New Game Plus once just to see like how the opening changed and everything, and it was basically kind of the same. There was a little bit new dialogue here and there, but like other than that, I was just like, I'm good. I had my story fill, and then I'm okay. I don't need to play this game again to see a little bit more content per se.
By the way, you don't have to worry about spoilers or anything with me because I've already watched Corona play it, and even though I didn't understand, I got the gist, I think.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like the story is kind of,
I feel like it's probably not like super intense. Like it's not a game that I'd be like, holy I need to like go in completely blind. I need to know nothing about this because there's so big twists that are gonna blow my mind.
no, I mean you've basically seen the big twists in that game if you watch Corona play it.
Yep, I did.
There is obviously like the side stuff in this game. There's a lot of that. Like there's like big side story trees of like you do these little faction missions, kind of like if you've played Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, all those games, they have those things. They're in this as well. So if you if you want that stuff, it's in here as well. But main story wise, like essentially you're a miner, you find this weird thing and it gives you a cool hallucination, And then you become a member of this group called Constellation, who are out trying to find these weird artifacts that, like the one you found. And essentially, you go around and you find these artifacts around these different planets and everything. And this is how they introduces you to, the characters within Constellation, because you go out and do missions with certain bits of them and all that sort of stuff. And then eventually you find another group who are trying to find these artifacts, who are calling themselves the Starborn. And they are very angry at you. And they're like, stop doing this.
Yes.
Get out of here. And you have to find out exactly who these people are and everything. And then there's a time where they come and attack you directly, and one of your Constellation mates gets killed.
Oh.
It's very rude. But eventually that leads you down the path of like you have to find out who these Starborn are, and then at the end of the day, there's two of them that are trying to like sway you in their favor. One of them like just wants all of the artifacts and is willing to do whatever it takes. The other one's trying to like find a more peaceful option, but like is trying to control the artifacts themselves as well. And you eventually learn that like one of them is a parallel universe version of the person who died.
Oh.
And then the other one is this other dude that who's like a minister on the planet that your Constellation base is. So yeah, the whole thing about this is that like, hey, there's parallel universes. These artifacts we keep warping to these universes and collecting these artifacts, and that's basically what we do. And then it becomes up to you to decide, hey, do you want to go along with either of these two guys' plan, or do you want to make your own plan and forge on that way, essentially? I think this is where basically the game actually gets kind of more interesting, because like you get to see kind of like the genesis of how all this happened, because like they make you go to the desolate version of Earth that's been overrun with like, it's just like dead, essentially. It's a dead planet, and you have to go to like the ruins of Cape Canaveral and find out like, this is where they found the first artifact and what exactly happened in all this, and learn that like they were able to create this like, this new form of space travel through these artifacts, but at the same time they killed Earth in the process. And that was a very divisive thing that happened, because some people were like, yo, this is a big scientific technology breakthrough, and other people were like, this is a sacrifice we should not have been willing to make. What are you doing? And there's also a mission that as well that like you go to a like this like, what's the word to describe it? It's like a warehouse place where they're experimenting on an artifact there. But you essentially keep like going back and forth between these parallel universes where like one of them everything's fine, but one person had died doing like doing experiments on this, and you go to the other one where everyone else died but this person.
Oh.
And you find out, you see like how it's all different, how the place is all like destroyed and everything, and you just like keep having to go back and forth between the two to like advance through this area and everything to actually get to where the artifact is and everything. And then you have to like basically make a choice of like, do I save how the universe is and how I got here, or do I save it where this one person survived, essentially? And it's a neat mission with how like you go back and forth between these parallel universes, because it's very, very similar to, there's a Titanfall 2 mission where you do that. So I got very, very fun vibes from that. I was like, hey, Titanfall 2 is a very good game. More people should steal from that. But that was an interesting mission, just because of how like they did all the parallel universe stuff and made it really work in terms of like allowing you to get between different different parts of this building and everything, and like puzzling it out to where you'd have to like go back and forth between these universes to proceed and everything. It was a really cool mission. But yeah, essentially the end of the game is like you making your decision. You get to talk to a parallel version of yourself, which is weird. It's like, I don't have a voice. Who is this person? Get out of here. And then, yeah, you make your choice. I made the choice to basically take everything and then go to another universe. See you later.
Bye.
And then basically once you do that, the game you just go into New Game Plus, and then you you basically start the game a little bit ahead of where the actual beginning of the game is, and then like there's a couple of new dialogue choices being like, hey, I know all you people. Isn't that weird? Anyways, here's exactly what's happening. And then I guess, if you keep playing the game, you'll get a little bit more story here and there and all that sort of stuff, but
Meh.
That's whatever. Yeah, like the main story's fine. Like I said, I think the interesting things about it are in that like back third of it, where they actually start doing neat things with the story rather than just like, I don't know, generic space story type deal.
So it did the opposite of what Final Fantasy 16 did, because
Yeah.
the first two-thirds of Final Fantasy 16 were very good, and then the back third of it was awful. And this one's like, the first two-thirds of it are okay, and then the last third is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So opposite of Final Fantasy 16.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know.
I would say that's an apt description.
Well, it's funny because that's the game that like everybody was fighting over with the critics on social medias.
I mean, you're never going to make people happy, especially with a Bethesda game. Let's be real.
No, you're not. And like Bethesda games don't tend to get like perfect scores or anything.
Nor should they.
No, they definitely shouldn't. I just remember seeing a lot of people like complaining about like the score of Starfield versus Final Fantasy 16 and vice versa. Because people are weird and turn Metacritic into a team sport or something. I don't know.
Everything's a team sport nowadays.
I mean, you're right, and it's exhausting, but that's just the first thing that came to mind when you were saying that the last third of this is good. I was like, oh hey, I played a game earlier this year where the last third of the game was not good.
Yeah. You asked me a question before we went on the air.
I did. Should I re-ask you the question?
Sure.
Jared, should I play Starfield since I have Xbox Game Pass?
If you want, if you have time for it. I mean, it's a long game. That's the thing. It's going to take you a while to get through. I think the thing about this game, and I saw someone like say, is that like it's Bethesda comfort food, because like you know what you're getting into when you play this game. You know like the style of gameplay it is, and like if you enjoy those kind of open world games, like this is gonna fill that need for you essentially. So like I wouldn't say you like need to like drop everything and play it right now, but like if you are just interested in it, like I don't see why you shouldn't. The only thing I will say is that like it is interesting playing this game, a couple years after playing The Outer Worlds. A similar game, you might say, in a wide variety of aspects here.
Right. And I played that one.
Yeah, so like if you've already played, like if you played that and you've gotten your fill of space, open world combat, this style, or open world gameplay and RPG, you're gonna just basically be playing something similar again. So maybe space it out a bit, but if like that's not an issue for you, like play it eventually.
Space
essentially.
it out.
There you go. Yeah, play it eventually. Like I think it's, like I said, it's fine. It's not gonna like be like, oh man, this is terrible. It's a Bethesda game. If you like those Bethesda games, you're gonna like this. If you're just like, hey, these scratch a certain itch for me, it's gonna scratch a certain itch for you. So
if I like play a little bit and then drop it for a bit and then come back, am I gonna be super confused?
No.
Okay.
Especially early on. Early on, it's kind of just like, yeah, we're just doing stuff.
We're in space.
We are in space.
All right. Yeah, I've been debating it since I have Game Pass, and I was like,
especially if you have Game Pass, like there's really like
there's no negative to it. I could just
there's no
drop
real
it if I
risk
don't want
to
to play
it. Yeah. Like you're not spending $70 on it, so
70 doll hairs. Yeah, I mean it was. Are you gonna judge me if I play it in third person?
No. I wouldn't play those games in third person because it just feels weird.
That's how I've always done it.
But that's just a preference thing. So
yeah. It's how I've always done it. As long as there was an option, I did it that way.
I've
But
always,
you know me in
I've
first
always played them
person.
in first person, so that's just how I've played those games. So
You know me in first person stuff.
that is true.
I'm not good with it.
It doesn't mix well with the owl.
It does not at all.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's Starfield.
Starfield.
Ralph Buddy.
Sorry.
Um,
One last thing I wanted to mention is that this game made chuds mad, so
pronouns.
good for this game for making the chuds mad.
So dumb. People are stupid.
Pronouns and a bisexual man.
How dare they?
God forbid there are pronouns and a bisexual man, because neither of those exist in the wild.
No, of course not.
Um, I hate to give them any kind of attention, but like, God, it's so weird. And honestly, like when chuds get mad, I'm like, I'm a little more interested in this now. Cause you guys.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's Starfield. Is indeed a
So
video
you
game.
generally liked it.
It was okay.
Like a 7?
Like a 6.
6. Okay.
But I'm not like a 7
You're
and
not
below
like
is the worst game ever made type deal.
right. You're like an actual out of 10.
Yeah. Like
Not
this is a
an
good
out
3
of-
out of 5.
Okay.
It's just in the middle.
Yeah, that's
It's all right.
and a serviceable video game.
Totally
all right.
fine.
Cool. Good to know.
Good to know. Before we go,
Before we go,
can I talk a little bit about Goodbye Volcano High?
you can.
Okay. I recently played through this.
Mhm.
This is of course the dinosaur game about the end of the world happening that was unveiled on like a state of play a while back.
A long time ago.
Yeah. 2020 apparently is when this was. And
A
we were
lot
both
of things have happened since
a
2020.
lot of things have happened. Yeah, that's true. We were both very interested in it when we saw it, and we are like, "Oh, that looks cool."
Mm-hmm.
We will definitely check this out when we get to it. I'm the one who has checked it out so far, but that's just because it's a little bit more expensive than you might think.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk about just like the game and everything. Because I did have a good time with it. It does have like I think it is $30. I mentioned, it is a little bit more pricey than you might expect. There are a bit of performance issues in this game that by the time I'd played through it weren't necessarily patched through all the way, so like that was kind of a disappointment. So if that's like a hindrance for you, especially with that price point, might want to wait till it goes on sale or something like that. The gameplay as well is kind of basic, like the rhythm game aspects of it are okay. They don't do anything like super wild or anything, but it's serviceable. But I think the fun things about this game is the story and the writing. That's where the game really shines. Because like I think the coolest thing about this game and like the most interesting about this thing about this game is that it takes place right before like the dinosaurs get wiped off the face of the earth essentially, right?
Right.
But this places them in like a society where like it's modern day society where like they have schools and everything, but like all these sorts of things that we already have.
Social media
Especially is the thing. And it's interesting to see like all of these people wrapping their heads around the fact like this cataclysmic event could be happening at some point, and they're just posting on social media about it and like trying to wrap their heads around it by posting memes or stuff like that, or making snarky remarks about it and all that sort of stuff.
The humor you showed me was really good.
It's very good. It's very realistic, especially for I think people our age.
Yeah.
Like our sense of
very
humor.
millennial coded.
Yeah. So like I think that really really works in this game. Like I said, like they send out a report like, hey, there's an asteroid that could be coming to Earth soon. We don't know exactly the details, but that seems a little bit sketchy. And then one of your friends immediately texts you a meme about it. And it's like, all right, yeah, okay. This is what this game's going for. It's really good. But yeah, it's interesting as well because like once it starts getting closer and closer, you start to see kind of like more of the anxiety in people, but also just more people just being like, what do we got? What do we do? I don't know. I'm just gonna post through this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be on social media and doing this sort of thing. And then just like the actual overall arching story as well is a very, it's a coming of age story about, the protagonist who's non-binary trying to find her way through her senior year of high school while all this is happening, while she's trying to get their band together to perform at this Battle of the Bands thing so they can finally take off, but their bandmates aren't necessarily on the same page per se in terms of like having this be their career sort of deal. And it's a lot of like them having to like, come to terms with all that and like figure out exactly how to wrap all of that around their head in terms of, this being a problem, and also the fact, hey, the end of the world's about to happen.
That's kind of bad.
It's kind of bad. Yeah, a lot of the main characters are just like very fun and well written. So like it's definitely, it relies a lot on its writing, and it's very good writing. So like that's a key thing that really excels in this game. And it's definitely one of those things as well. Like I think we've talked about this before, but like writing humor in video games is a hard thing.
It is very, very hard.
Obviously because humor itself is very subjective, but just like a lot of times video game humor is just not good.
Cringy, or just like written in a way that people wouldn't talk.
Mm-hmm. And this just feels like the way people would talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like this feels like stuff you would see in real life. So
I mean, you sent me some stuff that you were seeing. I was like, holy shit, like this just feels like something we would say.
yeah, hang on. I can probably pull up some some choices here.
Oh, I'm getting stabbed. Ow.
Don't get stabbed.
I'm
Like
not meaning to.
This tweet that said Meteor D's nuts.
Oh, I love that. That's really funny.
It's very good. Or this one, it says, wouldn't it be funny if an idiot with a ton of money bought this site and then drove it into the ground?
Wonder what that's about, huh?
I simply will not just get hit by the asteroid when it gets here. Rip to you guys, but I'm built different. I think the one that made me laugh the most was this one that says, guys, it's okay. We just all have to vote in the elections this fall and we'll be okay.
That one was really good.
Followed by, but what about the economy?
The economy. And this economy?
So good.
It's really funny.
Like that's just like, that's the social media part in a nutshell. It's just very good, very well written.
Right.
And yeah, like it's a short game, which you kind of expect, maybe like 6 to 8 hours at most to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an enjoyable time for sure if you want to play it. The downside of this is that, would you be surprised that Chuds were very mad about this game?
Chuds getting mad?
Mm-hmm.
This is the second game we talked about this stream where Chuds get mad.
4chan basically did some bad stuff about this, like hate rating the Discord of the development team. They also made a parody game called Snoot Game, which is basically a right-wing version of this game with all the characters and all that sort of stuff. But instead of like Fang, the main character, being non-binary, they decide to transition into an actual gender at the end of it because it can't be non-binary or anything like that. It's very bad. It's very stinky that people are dipshits like this.
Yeah, that's lame.
Very lame.
Blech.
Big bleh to them. Get out of here.
I was going to say they need a hobby, but like, I don't know. Maybe they just need to get a life.
Go touch grass.
That's good advice. Go touch grass, but not the grass that is in the front of my apartment complex right now because it's a hole.
It's a hole. Or just fall into that hole.
Or fall into the hole. You know what? I don't care.
That's fine with me.
That's fine with me too.
Oh, man.
You
But
don't
yeah.
have to come out of the hole. Just stay there.
Yeah, you can stay there. It's fine. Yeah, this game, I enjoyed it a lot. Fantastic writing. And just, it's an interesting concept, I think.
Mm-hmm. I should have gotten it when it was on sale.
yeah, I think it's one of those games like once you play it specifically, you'll enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think other people as well, if like they decide to get it, they will find it enjoyable as well.
Yay!
So there's that. I just wanted to briefly talk about that because I had recently played it, and I figured this was as good a time as any to talk about it.
Makes sense.
So there you go. Yeah, that's Goodbye Volcano High, and I think that's going to do it for us this week.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you would like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool is where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts, like Jared's Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. Follow us on Blue Sky at seasonalanimecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, and a whole wealth of bonus content as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, our final episode of October.
Oh,
So we'll talk about something for the final episode of October. That's all I can say.
That's all I got.
Yep.
Yep.